This happened 13 years ago. My wife's youngest sister was living with us in a place that had a second floor and a basement. The washer and dryer were in the basement, while the bedrooms were all on the second floor. Her sister would drop her clothes down the laundry chute, but tended to do her laundry only intermittently. She usually purchased new clothes rather than stay home and wash her dirty clothes. I would periodically remind her that her clothing was taking up an unacceptable amount of space downstairs, but nothing ever changed. One night, she had actually been home all day and still hadn't done a lick of laundry, despite being reminded twice that day alone that her clothing was taking up half the laundry area in the basement. It was 6 3-foot-tall laundry baskets, plus a healthy amount of overflow. About 10 p.m., I got fed up. So I took all her laundry back upstairs and piled it all up against her bedroom door, effectively barricading her inside her bedroom. The message was received and she kept up on her laundry from then until she moved out. This is a year old, had to wait to talk about it. I was working for a company as this weird level IT support. Like I couldn't do anything except the base level that a semi-tech savvy person could do. Most of my work was mounting monitors since the building was still setting up in the early days. The most tech-savvy part was this story. One of the actual technicians, i.e. has a local admin password, asks me to map out the entire building's network ports, since we didn't have a port map for the building. After I've done this, word comes down to remap the entire floor with only odd ports needed. I organize it so people have Wi-Fi/work from a different area for a half day while I unplug a floor at a time and recable it. 500 ports per floor, roughly half a day. Once I'm done dealing with people calling to complain I killed their internet despite multiple warnings. I finally finish pulling out all of the third floor, also the exec's floor, cables so I can cable manage the new audio-only setup, when my boss calls me into a meeting room and informs me I'm being let go. They escort me out of the building, no chance to fix up floor 3, which now has one active AP. And #X200B. I did warn them on the way out. So title pretty much sums it up. I work at a bank and one of the most common queries we get from customers is if a phone call they have received is actually from us or a scam. This happened when I had only been working at the bank for a few months, but a customer came in saying he'd been getting multiple phone calls a day from the bank saying he needed to transfer money out to a safe account, so came in to see what was actually going on. After checking records, it definitely was not us calling him. Top tip: your bank would never ask you to transfer money anywhere. I told him to stop answering the phone and just block the number. It was at this point they tried calling him again, so we decided to have some fun. Customer answered the phone and the scammer started the spiel that he needed to go into the bank and transfer money straight away. It was urgent, but to tell us that the money was for family. He replied, "Well, I'm actually in the bank right now. I'll hand you to the cashier and you can tell her the details." I didn't know what to expect down the other end of the phone, but after introducing myself to the scammer, who at this point was probs in a panic, they started cursing me and telling me it was wrong for me to pretend to work for a bank. How dare I put people in danger and try to steal their money. I then pointed out that it was he in fact that was doing that, and again got, "You don't work for the bank. You're a scammer. Blah blah blah." The customer and myself let him go on for another minute and then just hung up. Surprisingly, this has happened to other colleagues of mine. I don't know what the scammers think they are going to achieve at this point, cause the customer is obviously not going to believe from an anonymous person on the phone that the fully uniformed employee in front of them doesn't work for the bank, but who knows. Arguing back with scammers can be a bit of fun for us, especially knowing some of the damage they cause. This happened many years ago when I worked at Target. I was 17. Whenever the store would get a new stock, a lot of the time some of the older stock would be put on clearance to make room for new stock on the shelves. This was one such occasion. A new brand of women's clothing had just been introduced, so some of the stock was discounted down about 10 to 15. I was working on the register that day and had discounted a few items by this point. Most of the time the discounted price wouldn't scan, so I would have to change the price on the computer. My first customers after my lunch break was a Karen. Oh goody. She had mostly clothing and a few of them were the discounted ones. I knew which ones were the old stock. The first item scanned at the discounted price, but the second one didn't. The discount sticker had been half peeled off. So I canceled the transaction, changed the pricing and then scanned it again to make it scan at the discounted price. Not big deal. Wrong. Karen: excuse me? Why are you scanning that twice? I'm only buying one. You're overcharging me. Me: no ma'am. You're only paying for the one. It didn't scan at the discounted rate, so I was cut off. Karen: not listening to me, No. You will cancel that and give it to me at the price it said on the tag. Was she stupid or just in an argumentative mood? Me, are you sure, ma'am? Karen, yes. Just do your job. Yes, ma'am. Instead of paying $15 for the item, she paid $30. I knew I wouldn't get in trouble because accidents happen, but I was just doing my job. This one is a funny story, so prepare your giggles. I'm probably overselling it, but we'll see. Disclaimer, I was partially there. My supervisor was doing the shift and I'm not 100% sure on what happened. I will update if I find more info out. So I stopped by the hotel to do a couple of things. FDS is doing the morning, so I'm at the desk chatting with her. Guest A comes to check out. As he is talking, super premium tight-ass sparkly snowflake, Guest D, approaches and stands behind waiting his turn. Guest A mentions that they were unable to sleep at night because of the smell coming from next door, potential weed smokers maybe? They informed Na and claim they could smell it from outside as well. FDS apologizes and said that she doesn't have any notes recorded, so she will have to verify and get approval. Guest A leaves and says he'll be back in a few minutes for a resolution. Guest D shuffles to the front desk to ask for a late checkout. She gives him one because why not? Guest A returns and FDS just gives him a partial refund. Late checkout time comes and goes. Finally, Guest D makes his way to the FD and D, I wanted to mention that the room smelled last night and I was unable to sleep. I want a full refund now. FDS stares at him. I'm sorry to hear that. Unfortunately, your stay at the hotel was covered through points. We don't have the authorization to return points. D, well, I'm not sure what to tell you. I am unsatisfied with your services and I want a full refund, otherwise I will pull my accounts from franchise. FDS, okay. Again, I can't refund your stay because the hotel never collected your payment. You paid through points, that's a different system, one that the hotel has no control over. D, well, I'll give you until tomorrow, otherwise I will pull my accounts with franchise. FDS called me to let me know and laugh about it. Sure, buddy. You never mentioned the smell all night. You never mentioned the smell in the morning. You never mentioned the smell when you were at the FD. You never mentioned the smell when you stayed the extra hour for late checkout. You decide to mention it before you leave. What? I wish FDS asked for details. 20 says he would have copied Guest A's story. Their rooms are in opposite corners, so it would have been a good catch. Lamau. I get a notice from our guards downstairs that a Sprint guy wants to come up and see me. I tell them to send him up, and it's Kevin, a red-headed former IT soldier who has been hired by Sprint to help install our new LAN, maintain and run it. He tells me he has a problem. He lives in an apartment in Slavinsky Brod. Our civilian employees are allowed, we are not. He is just back from a vacation on the Dalmatian coast of Croatia where he bought a Dalmatian puppy. The problem is, when left alone in the apartment, she is tearing it up. He is asking my help as I am the only officer he knows well because of my job overseeing base communications. I remind him that no animals are allowed on base, and in fact we had been tasked to eradicate all the strays that had wandered onto the base. Being Oregonians, we did a catch and release instead. However, I told him I would try. The next morning at 0730 I was having my one-on-one update with Call, another pet lover, and when finished, told him I had a Sprint problem. I told him of Kevin's problem and waited. He thought for a moment and said okay, he can bring the dog with him, but the dog would have to be chained up at the Sprint container that was their office. That's how Dorothy the Dalmatian came to Camp Sava North. The purpose of the base and our mission was Rasoy, meaning everyone going into and out of Bosnia came through us. Units going in and out as well as soldiers going to Hungary on R&R. It just so happened that the Sprint office was next to where the R&R buses stopped to let troops off and on. Since animals were forbidden on all bases, once the young people spotted Dorothy, there would be a crowd all wanting to play with this beautiful puppy. She was in love with her job of entertaining the troops. On my next tour, I ran into Kevin in Tuzla, Evil Base, and asked about Dorothy. He laughed and told me that he took her back to Germany where he lived off base. She was depressed and always looking out the window. Whenever she spotted a soldier she would get excited and would want to go greet them. He often took her out to introduce her to them, some of which lived in the neighborhood and would stop by to say hi. I'm really frustrated at the moment and I think this couple broke me. What got me is what they said as they were leaving, "Thank you for working so hard." It made me pause. I was in the middle of wiping down every table in the restaurant. It's something we do now every 30 minutes to prevent the spread of COVID-19, wearing gloves and masks, because of COVID-19. and dealing with lower tips and decreased hours, again COVID-19. I live in Texas, a state that is now seeing a massive increase in the virus due to decisions made by people in leadership positions. The reason "thank you for working so hard" got to me is because it felt like it should have been followed by "unrisking your safety so my life could be slightly more convenient." I assume that wasn't the intent. They were a nice couple, tipped well. They even neatly organized their empty baskets and glasses on their table as they left. It's just, for me, how this whole situation feels. My safety and security is less important than the need for us to open up the economy. I know I can't really complain. I have a job, I'm relatively healthy, not in great shape, though, and I'm not actually putting myself at risk, but this whole situation right now has been eating at me anyways. Part is that I generally try to help others whenever I can and I don't know what I need to do. If I did, I'd at least have something to work towards. That's all I have, thanks for reading. This is a story of very minor, everyday revenge, but it was instant and felt good, so figured I'd share. I was pulling into a gas station when a woman pulled out from her parking spot right in front of me without looking my direction. She didn't pull out far enough to be able to drive straight out, she would need to go forward in front of my car again to correct her angle. So, while she shifted to drive, I pulled my car so slowly forward, preventing her from moving for maybe 3 seconds, eliciting a honk and a finger. It wasn't much, but it was honest work. I'm a courtroom assistant in a Southeast Asian country. I'd rather not get much further than that on identifying information. We do both security and practical assistance like moving displays, escorting juries, and some ceremonial stuff as well. This was the sentencing of an evil flip on several high crime offenses, similar to what a capital offense may be in America. Here high crime is the level above criminal offense, or felony for the rest of the world. He stalked, kidnapped, raped, and murdered a locally famous and growing pop artist who was pregnant. He was charged with stalking, high crime kidnapping, high crime rape, high crime murder, high crime fetal homicide, and a bunch of other stuff. Evil Flip, as he will be referred to from here on out, was on suicide precautions as he made threats against his own life in prison, so he was in spiffy paper clothes. We were well into victim impact statements. The victim had a large family and there were something like 35 individuals addressing the court. We're something like 28 statements into it. Next up was Granddad. These are always really emotional, families are always really upset for good reason, but this 80-plus-old guy is the worst I can remember. He was crying, breathing heavily, shaking, the entire sentencing. He was called to make his statement, starts walking up, about past the counsel table. He then turns, tackles the attorneys and Evil Flip. He didn't get much in on the Evil Flip, maybe a kick and 2 punches before 15 of us pile up on him. He was taken into custody, and it quickly became apparent that Evil Flip got what was coming. Evil Flip is screaming and gagging for about 20 seconds, then he starts convulsing, came back in about 2 minutes choking/gagging, really bad. We put him on his side and get an ambulance on the way. The rest of the gallery was evacuated and court went into recess. By time the ambulance arrives he's not breathing, only twitching and has no pulse. They do CPR, take him out to the hospital. He was revived and died later that day. Coroner's report said his brainstem was damaged, his skull was broken, and brain herniated through break in his skull. The Granddad was interviewed by national police who have jurisdiction of courts. He said that he'd been planning that for days, he felt no remorse, said if he had time he would have killed the attorneys too. It also came out that the Granddad was in my country's mob back in the day, had 40 years in prison prior for drowning someone in petrol and lighting their corpse on fire. He was suspected but not confirmed to be involved in several other high-profile murders. He was charged with murder, conspiracy, contempt of court, and 2x simple battery for the attorneys. He was found not guilty of everything except contempt of court, to which he was originally sentenced to 4 years, but it was reduced to terminal probation with home confinement due to his health. I feel like I'm the reason so many of you get stopped by random people at the store. I'm a helper. I see someone in Lowe's looking a little lost, and I have to jump in and help. What are you working on? Oh, I've done that. Have you seen this product? Oh, you don't need to buy that more expensive material. I once overheard an employee helping a customer and interrupted to correct the bad advice, presented as an alternate suggestion, he was giving. I've been asked, do you work here? Only to answer, I'm just helpful. So I'm sorry. Edit, it looks about settled. 1. Helper, good. 2. Kindly asking strangers, good. 3. Crazy Karen yelling at strangers, bad. 4. Also crazy Karen yelling at employees, bad. Background. I live in a country in Europe that borders up to several other countries. In my country, MC, things like soda is a bit expensive, but if you drive across the border to other country, OC, you can get sodas, beers etc. for way cheaper. Recently, our borders have opened again and we can now go to OC to buy cheaper beverages again, among other things, so I decided to drive down there and shop a bit. However, where in MC, you don't need to wear a face mask when you shop, in OC, you do. I didn't have a face mask, so I ended up taking a motorcycle bandana with me instead. You technically don't need a real face mask, just something that covers your mouth and nose. When I arrived in OC, I noticed that they sold proper face masks inside the store. I put my bandana around my neck and started to head in when I hear someone shout behind me. Karen, hey, you need to wear a face mask to enter that store. Me, I turn around and face her. But. Karen, you need to wear a face mask to enter that store. Me, I know but. Karen, put on a face mask or don't go into the store. So, I pull the motorcycle bandana up over my nose and mouth. This is where I should say that the part around the mouth is basically a zombie jaw area, so to for example a small kid, I could look a bit scary. Karen's eyes widen and she stares at me. Karen, you can't wear that into the store, you might scare the children. Me, I know, that's why I was gonna buy a proper mask at the reception desk. Now will you please leave me alone so I can do that? She don't say any more and I walk to the reception and buys a face mask. I saw Karen in the store a few times, but she avoided eye contact. I completely understand why masks are important and that's why I wanted something better than my semi-sucky motorcycle bandana, but Karen just couldn't let me do my thing. This one mostly goes out to all the lurkers/travelers out there, and covers a story that gets told time and again by every third shift hotel employee ever. Think of it like showing up early for a friend's party. Show up an hour early? Sure. Come on in, get settled, have fun. 2 hours early? A little odd, but no problem. We're just getting things ready at that point, but we should be able to host you well enough. If you show up 12 hours early for a party, you're likely going to meet a very sleepy, very perturbed host who is not going to let you in unless there's a very good reason. I have had so many people call and walk in expecting to check in for the date their phone shows just cause it's past midnight. I've already had several calls asking to check in for the 4th of July, and it's about 3 a.m. on the 4th. Read the check-in time when you make a reservation. It's going to say around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, because that's how long it takes housekeepers to clean rooms for everyone leaving by the checkout time. No magical room fairies show up at the stroke midnight and turn occupied rooms into clean empty ones, so no, you cannot check into them half a day before your arrival time. Unless you pay for the night you're staying, but apparently that thought offends people's sensibilities. I get it. I don't want to drop that extra money either because of poorly timed or planned travel. But come on, people. I spent 2 hours of my life on a call last night. For no good reason. I'd answered his reason for calling within the first minute or two of the call. Then he went on a rant about everything. COVID-19, the government, AutoZone, MAPCO, Section 8 housing, disputes with his landlord over cutting his grass, etc. for 2 freaking hours. I've worked in a call center for 23 years. I know how to reel people back into the subject at hand. Not this guy. Every time I tried to bring him back in, he'd say, yeah, let me just tell you this. It was insane. We are not allowed to hang up on a customer ever. When I try to let him know I have other customers waiting, he'd launch into a diatribe about how a customer on the phone is just as important as a customer in front of you. What? All my customers are on the phone, dude. I worked third shift, so his ridiculous need for attention impacted my coworkers negatively as well, since they had to take all the incoming calls because I could not get this bozo off the darn phone. I just need to rant, since there is no resolution. Just frustrating as all get out. I enjoy working in the hotel industry. I get to talk to people from all walks of life. I work third shift and the shenanigans get pretty outrageous sometimes. I actually enjoy the craziness, as long as no one is getting hurt or I'm not getting cussed out at. But I like the challenges at night. It's 2:40 am here and so far I have 1. Explain to a couple that they cannot pop up a tent in the parking lot because they want to enjoy the fireworks people are letting off around us. 2. Got tipped $40 because I have an extremely needy guest that really needs to just go home to his wife and not drink. 3. Help search for a missing person, come to find out he is just on a bender and is at the casino across the parking lot. 4. Put out a fire in the flower pots, please people just use the butt garbage thingy. 5. Went on the ever-present hunt for the luggage racks, and gave a drunk girl a ride and one down to the lobby, because, why not? 6. Had a raccoon almost do a belly flop right on my head when I threw garbage away in our dumpster. How has everyone else's night been this fine 4th of July week? What has been going on? I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical DJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee, cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. This is from a few years ago, but I just discovered this sub so macron / macron. I used to work for a retail chain that sells home decor. Uniform is all black and an apron denoting the name of the store in large letters across the chest. I was also wearing my name tag for the company. I went to the Dollar Tree, uniform is green shirt, khaki pants, that was immediately next door to us to get some extra light bulbs. I'm crouched down low and putting bulbs in my shopping basket when I hear a voice immediately behind me ask where's your bread? I turn and see a couple of old ladies, and say I'm sorry, I don't work here. I don't know they make some snide remark about me and move along. I go up to the register and am standing in line to check out when the old ladies come back to me to ask when will you get more bread in? I looked at her and said sorry, I still don't work here. She made a stink face at me and wandered off after that. My oldest sister liked to pants all her younger siblings at any time. She did it any time the mood struck her. My most vivid memories were once in our driveway on the way to visit family, that made me cry, and once in a grocery store, also cried. The last time embarrassed me so much that passive little 5-10-year-old me swore revenge. When my cousins that were my sister's age came over she was distracted catching up like how big kids do a perfect time because they always ignored me and left me out in whatever they did. I ran as fast as I could, I was always a sprinter, from the hallway and dived toward my sister. As I fell to the floor I grabbed her pants and pulled down all of her bottoms with me. My cousins laughed, I laughed and yelled, "That's for last time." And after my sister pulled up her pants and got over the surprise she laughed too. We don't have a good relationship nowadays but we can still laugh at that if someone brings it up. Not much of a revenge but she never pantsed me again after that because I would hit 2x as hard and she still knows I would, even now. Guess something good came out of those years of humiliation. I am not passive anymore but I'm far pettier than most of my sisters. You give some, you get some. Just got back from the neighbors, as this just happened. Not a long story so here it goes. This morning I went to let the dogs out. One wanted to play and so I grabbed her baseball and threw it. The game of fetch was picking up and the other dogs wanted to play so I kept throwing it faster and faster to keep ahead of the pack. All of us were having fun until I threw way harder than I wanted to. It bounced off a rock, went over the fence and right into my neighbor's open window. I hear him shout what the flip? Then a stream of Spanish I couldn't keep up with. Then all the lights in his house turned on as he woke the family with his reasonable freak out. In shame I walked around the block to apologize and explain. Thankfully I hit him in the leg and not his face. He's a decent guy and a good neighbor. But I feel really bad waking him and his family up so rudely at 7:15 in the morning. Fin. TLDR, I threw a baseball through a neighbor's window and hit him while he was sleeping. First time posting. Currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And hashtag X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the imps got there, let alone even go look at her. And hashtag X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. I work for a certain red-shirted delivery company in the UK. When we deliver a parcel and the recipient isn't in, we leave a very distinct red card with our company name on. This is a regular occurrence. Customer comes into the office and hands me a white card over the counter. Me, sorry ma'am, this is a other company card. Customer, what? Me, this is a different company card. We don't have your parcel. Customer, but it says post office. Me, we're the delivery office. We're not associated with the post office. Customer, so you don't have my parcel? Internal screaming. Tifu by playing an inappropriate game with my mother. My senior year of high school, my group of friends and I started playing a game we dubbed the sex game. The game was played while we drove around town at night. Whenever we saw a vehicle with a headlight out, the last person in the car to punch the ceiling and shout sex had to remove an article of clothing. My group of friends and I were pretty innocent with it and we rarely had to remove anything other than our shoes and socks, though the more muscly guys in our group used their losing as an excuse to take off their shirts and show off their abs. After playing a few times and not doing so well, my competitive nature took over. I began to practice. Every time I drove anywhere by myself, I watched for missing headlights and tested my reflexes, punching the ceiling and shouting sex as quickly as I could. After all my practice, scanning for headlights, then punching and shouting became almost instinctive. When I was with my friends, my work paid off, as I basically became the sex game champion, by never having to take anything off. Sadly, my newly found instincts backfired one day while riding with my mother. We were on our way to a party for her work when I just went for it without thinking. I had to do some quick explaining, telling her it's just a silly game my friends and I play, leaving out the removal of clothing part. She bought it. We laugh, move on and eventually make it to the party. As soon as we get there, she couldn't wait to tell her coworkers about the weird hilarious thing I did on the way to the party. One of them knew what the game was and immediately told her. I got busted and grounded. TL, Doctor, I used to play a dumb inappropriate game with my friends that involved shouting the sex and the removal of clothing. One night I accidentally started a game while in the car with my mother. It didn't go well. Tifu by getting my friend's hand broken. Obligatory. This was last night, but I was just so shocked by it. My friend, 17F, and I, 20M, were working at a restaurant last night, and it was super slow. So, we were just wasting time talking about a whole load of nothing. She gets the random idea to punch me. So she asks and I obliged. I thought it'd be fun. She punches my arm as hard as she can, but she went at a bad angle and it kind of hit the side and went into my forearm. There's some popping sound and she is immediately in pain. I start laughing at her because, she just hurt herself hurting me. She doesn't get better. She stands around while I tease her and gets mad at me. She ends up talking to a manager about how she can't work in this pain. She gets cut and goes to the urgent care. I immediately start feeling like shoot. Later that night she texts me that she broke her hand. I'm still trying to work this out, but I feel incredibly guilty about it. TL, Doctor, my friend punched me in the arm and broke her hand over it. We're down to 3 cooks officially as of today in a kitchen that has up to 7 stations. The one that just quit has worked at our location for 20 years. Like, no one is coming back. It's to the point managers are having to serve, they give the tips to the next shift, which is nice. Our Togo specialist, also of almost 20 years, who has had her ass kicked with record being takeout sales, has put in and rescinded her 2 weeks twice. In a month. It's getting to be too much. Are any of y'all dealing with this? It's crazy. I feel like we should go down to Togo only, at least then we'd have the staff. A self-confessing food thief started our org's path down the limitation of our email distribution lists. Here's how it happened. We worked in the headquarters of a nationally recognized organization, with hundreds of people and a ton of interns who were very overworked. One day, as I was about to head home, I received an email addressed to everyone in the organization, way back in the 90s when that was still allowed. It went something like this. Hi, my name is Joe Intern. My manager had me working on a project that took me almost the entire day. By the time I had finished, all the lunch street vendors had gone home and I did not bring a lunch. I had not had breakfast, and in retrospect, I probably should have. By this time, I was starving, so I did something shameful that I will now confess to. I stole food. I looked in the refrigerator, and there it was. A shiny, delicious-looking apple. I was famished and in a moment of weakness, I ate it. I ate it all, even the core. Only the stem was left. So to whoever owned that apple, I am sorry. Just let me know if that apple was yours and I will pay you back tomorrow. Thank you, and again, I apologize. It was one of the greatest emails I had read in my life. That dude also got more invites to lunch for the next couple of weeks than I had ever seen. And oh, the head of the org had me shut down the capability of just anyone, like interns, being able to send an email to the everyone group. I work at a car dealership as a receptionist, and it's the 4th of July, so sales is open but parts and service is closed. Most of my calls today have been, hi, is service open? No, these are their hours Monday though. Okay, I'll call Monday. Just had an old guy call demanding to speak with our parts department and get mad with me when I told him they're closed. Old guy, can I talk with parts? Me, sorry sir, they're closed today but they'll be open Monday at 8 a.m. Old guy, well I just had this part fall off my car and I want to know what it is. Me, okay, parts would be the people to talk to about that, but unfortunately they're closed for the holiday today. If you call back Monday they'd be happy to help you. Old guy, well I swear to God if you guys did this during my last oil change I'm gonna raise a lot of shoot. Me, okay. Old guy, I want to talk to someone right now. Me, sir, the only people I have here today are salespeople and they will not be able to help you. You can call back Monday for parts. Old guy, well you better call the people in parts and get someone with me right now or I'm going to sue. Me, I am not going to bother my employees on their holiday so you can abuse them over a minor issue with your car. You can call Monday or you can call AutoZone if you absolutely can't wait 2 days. I've explained to you your options. I can't help you further, and I'm disconnecting now. Have a good day. Click. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. This might be minor but I'm still embarrassed about it. Yesterday I was in Walmart buying eggs at the self-checkout. What could go wrong? They wouldn't scan so I'm tilting the carton around looking for the right angle. Well, I start getting egg juice on my arm. I also happen to notice the bottom of the carton has little pinholes in it. The egg juice came from said holes. So I'm thinking great, someone stabbed my eggs. I can't check them out anyway, so, in an ignorant act of me trying to do a good thing, I tell an associate that my eggs may have been tampered with. I go back to get new eggs and notice there are holes in lots of them. I guess I can ask if it's normal? Associate number 2 had no idea. Manager got involved. Associate number 1 said they might have to pull the eggs. We inspect closer and the holes are poked in similar patterns on each carton. I'm an idiot, guys. TLDR, egg cartons have little holes poked in the bottom, who knows why? I didn't. Edit, here's my eggs, 2 different brands bought at different stores, image is color corrected. Lobby is by appointment only right now, and I am trying to squeeze as many people in as possible between all my scheduled appointments, especially if they are fraud cases that need to be taken care of ASAP. I had 3 old men come in today back to back with big fraud cases and I just can't believe they can be this stupid. None were super old and all 3 knew what they were doing was wrong. I just can't anymore. This pandemic is making people stupider by the moment. 2 of them didn't want to wear masks even though it is a statewide mandate. The worst one was a guy who came in yesterday and lied to us that he needed $20,000 in cash to buy a car. Teller gave him the cash because he was throwing a fit, screaming he wanted to talk to the manager, he is going to call the president of the bank, blah, 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 you know the type. He bought $6,000 in gift cards at 2 local stores and tried to buy $8,000 at the third and they refused and told him it was fraud. Made him call the bank immediately and report it. Had sent them pics of the cards, so he is out $12,000 and after being rude to us about getting his cash, he had to eat crow when I told him this was exactly why we don't give out this kind of cash, that I can't help him get his cash back, needed new accounts etc. and that risk may bar him from having further accounts with us. I wanted to say that Karma was an idiot, but after we all had an awful week and he is out so much money, I decided it wouldn't do anything to help the situation. Both other fraud cases today follow the same pattern, so be careful out there. Usually, I'm really careful with drugs but having tried edibles over 10 times in multiple forms at super high doses and never really feeling anything, I was led to believe I have a massive natural tolerance to edible THC. One day, I decided to make my own edibles at home and since I had literally eaten grams of weed before, including legal edibles in Amsterdam, and not felt much, I decided eating 1 gram, 200 milligrams THC, would be a good start and I could smoke if I didn't feel anything. One time on edibles, also smoked a lot, I basically fell asleep so I decided to take 50 milligrams of caffeine, no tolerance, to make sure I didn't get tired. On top of all of this, I had a really powerful mushroom trip a couple of days earlier. Anyone who's tried weed after psychedelics knows how much more intense it can get. Within 15 minutes I was already stoned. Within 30 minutes I was way too stoned. Then I had to go to bed and lie down because I was so high I could barely move my body. I've had hundreds of psychedelic trips, so weed for me is already much more intense and trippy. Just 1 toke from a joint and I'm moderately high/tripping. Within an hour, I was tripping so hard that I was basically having an OBE. I checked the time, It had felt like days of time had passed and I was only halfway through the come up. The next hour was a strange experience. I just kept getting higher and higher. It didn't stop. I would check the time every few minutes thinking it had been hours/days. Past the 1.5-hour mark I was too high to check the time. There wasn't much I could do other than write it out. It's fair to say I thought I was gonna die 10+ times during the trip. I would hear a noise and instantly assume someone had broken in and I was about to get killed, having to face my death over and over again. I ended up having to cancel all my plans because even 24 hours later I was still too high to function at all. 48 hours later I was still moderately high but starting to sober up, somehow, still alive. Smile. TLDR, I took way too much edible weed thinking I had a natural tolerance because of bad quality edibles in the past. I also took 50 milligrams caffeine and had just done mushrooms a couple of days prior. Ended up thinking I was gonna die 10+ times and had to cancel all my plans because I was too high to do anything for over 48 hours. Whoops, haha. At my last job, and now in my current job, I would have these mandatory performance reviews that include my performance goals for the upcoming year. When I sign up for these, it's with the express purpose of preparing for a merit increase at the end of the period. This never happened in my last job because they were always making bad decisions that left them scrambling to make ends meet, much less try to give people pay raises. In my new job, of course, there's been an impact from COVID, so I was told there would be no merit increases this year because there's no money available. Okay, I get it, and it's fine because I wasn't eligible this time around anyway, but for next year, they're already saying no raises at the end of this year, but they still want us to do the performance reviews and goal setting. Of course you want your workforce to continue to improve and to meet the demands of the job, but I'm doing that. I just get a kind of minor issue with putting in the effort to do the performance review, but with no payoff from me in it. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who feels this way. In my last job, it was completely pointless because no one even cared, not the employees, the bosses, or the managers. It was just a box you had to check, but here, it's like you're supposed to be all chipper about it like it's going to mean something. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then, which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of you 11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. So this was when Endgame was released. I was watching Endgame in a movie theater when it released and shortly after, a girl and her friend sat behind me. Her friend puts her foot on my shoulder. I tell her to stop but doesn't listen, so I said again louder, but they didn't care. So I decided to get my revenge. I went to the seats behind them and put my feet on their shoulders. And when they said hey, I just said hey, the movie's on, be quiet. They shut up after that and told me to please stop. I did and went back to my own seat. They put their feet on my seat again, so I was infuriated at this point. So I just licked my hand and rubbed my hand on their feet and said I have mouth herpes, and they put their feet down for the rest of the movie. I don't have mouth herpes lol. A lady drives up to the window and holds up her debit card and says, "Can I get some money?" At first I thought maybe she wanted to get cash back with her prescriptions, but nope, she thought we were a bank. She asked me where she was and I explained this was the pharmacy. She looked so confused. I do understand her confusion a bit. On the side of the building is the name of the bank, but it's for the ATM inside. She probably saw the sign on the window and assumed. I'm still not sure why she tried to give me her card though. I've never heard of withdrawing money from a teller using a debit card. Not an exciting story, but my pharmacist and I had a laugh over it. It's never happened before. Sorry lady for the confusion. TLDR, a lady thought our drive-thru was a bank drive-thru. This happened today. I'm still mortified. I've been wanting to cook this particular dish that's from my culture that I loved. It's a soup dish and I could never find a good one at restaurants near me. But since I have so much time I just thought I'd make it myself. Everything was going good until I came across the kale. My mom told me to wash it before I tear it off the stem and toss them in. I gave them a glance and they looked fine to me, so I gave it a nice 5 seconds shower in the sink. I've known of people finding insects like caterpillars and spiders in their produce, but I didn't know you could get 1,000 of them on a couple of kale leaves. This is where my naive empty brain lead me to a shoot ton of little flip-ups. I ripped the leaves off the stem and tossed them in. Little did I know a colony of these tiny little bugs had once been sucking the green out of this plant and had the misfortune of being boiled alive in my soup. My mom came back and asked me if I had already added pepper. I had to tell her it wasn't pepper. After 4 strainers and 2 cheesecloth, we couldn't find ourselves getting rid of all of our cooked little kale mites, although we must have gotten most of them. There was just so many and they just kept floating to the top when we stirred the spoon around. We sat there in defeat eating our kale bug soup. And if you're wondering what type of bugs, for visuals, they were a type of aphids. Wash your veggies. TL Doctor half-assed washed my kale and ended up with aphid soup. TL Doctor at bottom. This happened when I was 13. My studio was having a belt test, where you try to move up one belt level by performing the moves you've learned while in your current belt level. So for my belt level, we had to kick these boards from the side that the instructors held and break them. They would hold them low to the ground at a 45-degree angle with the board going in a backward/direction. Everyone in my belt level got in line to break a board. The thing with these tests was that they didn't happen that often and parents would watch their kids compete, so there were a lot of people watching. My turn came, and the instructor said he would count to 3 and to kick on 3. When he reached 3, I kicked as hard as I could, but I missed and kicked his thumb. He dropped the board and grabbed his thumb, but kept his cool and didn't get mad. I guess he knew what he signed up for, lol, but he did say ooh, powerful. He let me try again and I broke the board, but at the next lesson he showed up with a cast on his thumb, and I knew it was my fault. DL Doctor, during a test to move up to the next belt level, I had to break a board my instructor held by kicking it at a 45-degree angle. I missed and kicked him directly in the thumb. He showed up to the next lesson with a cast on it. As the title says, today we're eating a Rice Krispie bar that had been sitting in the fridge for an hour, tastes good chili. I pulled up an/video and a glass of milk to go with the sweet. As I am excited for the goodness that is upon me, I start digging in and on my 4th bite, I notice something a little hard. Me thinking it was the frozen part of the treat and about the feeling of it as it melts in my warm mouth, I take a big hard bite and hear a deafening crunch. Oh shoot, it was my tooth. Earlier this week I noticed my tooth was loose and I let it slip my mind. And a 1/2-inch sharp piece of enamel and dentin hit the back of my throat. I froze trying not to swallow and I gagged for a good 15 seconds before it comes out. As I recover from this endeavor I go to look in the mirror and now there is a massive gap in my mouth that won't grow in for a while as it was pulled prematurely. I have to walk around with a inch-wide gap in my mouth for about 2 months now. As the title says, today I was eating a Rice Krispie bar that had been sitting in the fridge for an hour, tastes good chili. I pulled up an/video and a glass of milk to go with the sweet. As I am excited for the goodness that is upon me, I start digging in on this heavenly of snacks and on my 4th bite, I notice something a little hard. Me thinking it was the frozen part of the treat and about the feeling of it as it melts in my warm mouth, I take a big hard bite and hear a deafening crunch. Oh shoot, it was my tooth. Earlier this week I noticed my tooth was loose and I let it slip my mind. And a 1/2-inch sharp piece of enamel and dentin hit the back of my throat. I froze trying not to swallow and I gagged for a good 15 seconds before it comes out. As I recover from this endeavor I go to look in the mirror and now there is a massive gap in my mouth that won't grow in for a while as it was pulled prematurely. I have to walk around with a inch-wide gap in my mouth for about 2 months now. I don't want to go outside for the next year, kill me now. DL Doctor, I was trying to eat a Rice Krispie, ended up deep-throating my tooth. So I work as a lifeguard and today I did the opposite of my job description, which is enforcing the safety of patrons. Our pool isn't busy and at the end of our days we usually have 1 or 2 kids stay till the end of the shift. Well, today I was playing with the last kid in the pool, letting him do flips off my shoulders. So I go down with him on my shoulders and I pop up and he jumps off. Well, this time he didn't jump out and his back lands on my head as his knee goes into his face. When I get back up I realize the water kind of tastes metallic and there's so much blood it looks like a scene from Jaws with blood everywhere in the water around us. So I get him out of the water. The kid has a huge ass gash in his lip like it was cut with a knife. So I care for him, use paper towels to stop the bleeding, etc. Luckily his mom was a nurse and chill, so I didn't get much flack from her. But my manager got wind of it and started yelling at me through the phone. I'm already on thin ice from just generally being a pain in the ass, in a good way, so I don't have high hopes for keeping this job. Sorry, Ollie. DLDR kid was doing flips, bust his lip really bad, manager may fire me for it. My dad was Royal Navy in the late 50s to late 60s. He attended a 6-month-long career course, and nearing the end of the course he asked about his next orders. He was told they were being looked at and not to worry. With a week left to go, he asked again and was told his orders were on the way. He received them the day before the end of the course. He was ordered to embark on a ship that he knew had left dock the day before and would by now be several hundred miles out to sea. He pointed this out and asked for updated orders. His orders came back amended. He was now placed on a 6-month career course, the same course he had just done. He pointed this out and was told to like it or lump it. He put his papers in instead. This is the pettiest I have ever been. Background: my wife and I are always making sure that we both see all the fantastic dogs in the world. Even to the point if one of us are in the shops and the other outside, we will video those dogs so we don't miss out. Here comes the pettiness. I was grumpy at her for some small and pointless argument. And I was driving, she was in the passenger seat. I deliberately didn't tell her about the amazing dog on the opposite side of the road to what she was looking. After we went over the hill I said that I was sorry, but this is what I just did. We both forgave whatever was said because of how petty and funny it was. Thanks for reading my story. DLDR was mad at wife and didn't tell her to look at an amazing dog whilst driving past. Considering a day and 1,000 years are the same for God, this was today. When I was a kid I was at a friend's house and was preparing to leave to go home. So I picked up my toy jet plane. It was a simple one but I had a lot of fun with it. My friend argued the plane was his. No way, I said. I took it there, it was my toy plane. What's up with him to suddenly say it's his? We began an argument. He started to cry out loud. His father came to see what was going on. I was pretty calm and explained what was going on. He asked his son if the plane was his, to which he answered yes, full of tears. Then he looked me in the eye and asked the same question, to which I answered of course it's mine, I carried it all the way here. The father told me to leave and turned to his son with freezing eyes. I could read his thoughts. He was thinking something like no son of mine will be a liar or a thief and where is my belt? I left in a bit of a rush since I ended up getting delayed for lunch. I walked down the road, took a left, walked to my house, thinking what a jerk all the way. Got home, walked up the stairs into my room to put away the plane before lunch. That's when I saw something that made my heart stop and my mind short-circuit, my toy plane. Oops. Scenes of my friend being belted crossing my mind. Guess who was the lying thief kid that made a huge mistake after all? Dr. Tifu by thinking a friend's toy was mine, convincing his father that I was right, and causing him to be punished. I found my toy later on. Background: so I have 2 identical Acer laptops, one of them is like new and works great, go Acer, now the other one's battery went dead a few months ago. And when the time came to get a new battery I decided to buy a gently used one off of eBay. After I installed it, the laptop worked okay as long as I didn't leave it charging for too long. Sometime later, so I was running late for work, like every morning, and picked up my laptop, charger, power bank and other work-related goodies and packed it all into my backpack. As I speed walk to the bus stop I get this feeling that I forgot something but I shrug it off as I'm already late. I get on the bus, sit down next to a fellow traveler, open up my computer and see that the battery is around 80%, so go ahead and plug it into my power bank and put the 2 in my pack. This is a 25-minute bus ride, so I pop on my headphones and close my eyes and listen to my music. And about 20 minutes later I hear a bunch of yelling and smell an awful burning smell. Yeah, you guessed it, my laptop burned up in my pack. Now this probably wouldn't have been such a big deal if I wasn't a dark-skinned Pakistani male, so the bus stops and everybody is accusing me of having some sort of bomb. And I open up what's left of my pack, show them my smoking laptop, and we all kind of just start laughing. Doctor, I mistakenly brought the wrong laptop on a bus and it caught fire, and luckily no one was hurt. So a couple years ago I worked for a certain retail chain where the uniform was a blue shirt and black pants. I needed to pick up something from Target on my way home one day. As I was walking with a basket containing groceries, a lady walked up and asked me if I could help her find a specific brand of shampoo. I apologized and said I didn't work there and she pleasantly went on her way to find someone. Not a very eventful story, but I find it funny that I have such an employee look to me that I can literally wear the opposite uniform and be mistaken for one. Edit: sorry, forgot to mention that she asked if I worked there first before asking about the shampoo. Not me, but witnessed my bar manager go through this. Customer, excuse me, I've been waiting ages and you served everyone except me. Bar manager, I'm sorry love, what do you want? C, I'm not your love. Stares. BM, I'm sorry, can I get you anything? C, I think it's awful how you ignore customers who have been waiting for so long. BM, I didn't realize you had been waiting so long, what can I get you? C, well, I think this is awful, 5 people must have come after me and been served. BM, I apologize again, I'll get you your drinks now, what would you like? C, for free? BM, sorry, I can't do them for free. C, why not? I've had to wait for so long, it's the least you can do. BM, I don't think it works like that, do you want any drinks or not? C, of course I do, why do you think I was waiting at the bar? But I don't think I should have to pay. BM, you can either buy a drink or stand away from the bar, I'm afraid, that's all we can offer. C, fine. But I don't want you to serve me. BM, why not? C, because you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing. BM, well everyone else here didn't serve you fast enough either, what difference does it make who pours your drinks? C, well I've just said, anyone but you. Now get somebody else. BM, well, the other staff are busy mixing drinks, so you'll have to wait if you want them. C, are you kidding? Flip you. BM, flip me? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Commence ranting and shouting followed by the bouncer escorting her out. So you skip the first paragraph if you want, it's just background. I work at an Amazon warehouse, it's quite a busy place, and a lot of people either quit or are fired. An average runtime for a worker is around 3 months. So if like me who's been working there for 3 years, yeah I know been here too long, I see a lot of people come and go. So this particular situation happened few months ago. I finished work and was coming home, didn't drive then, now I do, so I took the bus. I got off the bus and was walking home from the bus stop. I hear someone honk at me, I looked around and saw a car make a U-turn from the other side of the road to my side. The car stopped next to me and opened the window. Hey Hamzer. Been a long time, how's everything, you still working at Amazon, let me give you a ride home? I replied in a very awkward way, yeah. I am. He looked at me funny. Do you remember me, Hamzer? Obviously I didn't, but I didn't want to say I didn't. Yeah man, I remember you were, me looking at his nameplate, and on. He looked disappointed and just said, mate, I saw you look at my nameplate, you don't remember do you? Obviously I was caught, but I tried to tell him I remembered, but he just stopped believing me. Well, good to see then Hamzer. Then he just drove off. Literally after a few steps after, all the memories flooded back in. Turns out me and him spent a good 4 to 5 months working together, he always used to come to my station to help and talk. He was kinda really a good guy. My mind just blanked out when I met him. But yeah, I never heard of him since. Don't have any of his socials, so I can't contact him to apologize. I still feel cringe when I think about it, tbh. TL, doctor, an old coworker stopped over to say hi and give me a ride. I couldn't remember him and he noticed. Colleague. This just happened now and I'm so embarrassed. So basically I am working part-time in this bakery and let's just say that I don't get paid well. I have to work a lot, more than in other jobs, to be able to pay of my expenses. For quite some time I was thinking of quitting and working, for example, in a shop, where I would get almost double as much for the same work I put in. My real chef is having a holiday, but I wanted to quit in this month, because I still have this month off before school starts. I didn't want it to be stressful and wanted to find a job with all this free time. We have 2 second chefs. So I told the first one downstairs and I didn't feel anything. We didn't have a lot to do with each other. I still wanted to tell the other one, because we became friends while working here. He had to work, so I decided to talk after I finished working in the side of the store. It was extremely crowded. So we talked and I just couldn't hold my tears anymore and cried very loudly. It didn't feel real. Everyone was looking at me. I hate that I can't hold it back. It wasn't even that fun of a time working there. He was like, it's normal to cry, but it was so embarrassing. It wasn't even my last day. And when I was sitting in the train to get back home, I was still crying. For my luck, my classmate was sitting on the same train. I didn't even realize at first. Now I'm sitting here in the staircase, all cried out and all red. FML. DL, drive. I started crying while talking to my college for no reason and the whole store was looking at me. My mom's birthday is today and she loves See's candy. For a birthday treat, I swing by the local store to buy her a pound of chocolate. I walked up to the store and saw that the front door was open but entrance had a barricade. No one was standing at the barricade. I was puzzled and trying to determine if the store was open when a man from inside the store moves the barricade, passes through, and puts the barricade back in place. This man is wearing khakis and a blue polo. See's employees wear old-fashioned white outfits with black accent striping. I ask this man, "The store isn't open, correct?" Man responds, "No, it's open." At this time two things happen. Employee in classic outfit walks outside to help me and I notice the polo has a company logo and name for a nearby locksmith. I apologize to the locksmith for bothering him and feel like an idiot. He looked nothing like the employees and it was a silly mistake. Oops. BTW, my mom was so excited to get the chocolates today for her birthday.